home. In 2008, he was recognized by music publishing giant BMI for his career achievements, for his outstanding work as a composer, and for his role as an educator and mentor to young musicians. Please join me in welcoming my friend, Christopher Young.
Howdy, everybody. I feel truly blessed to be here with you all today, and I owe this great opportunity to my friend, Dean Raymond Torres Santos, a great composer that I've known since our days together at UCLA. Although my time with you this morning is very limited, I'm hoping more than anything else to inspire you as best as I can to move into that next phase of your life with confidence. So let's start with that dreaded anxiety issue, because there's probably not a single one of you out there that's not sweating at least a little bit about stumbling once you leave school today. That's, actually not such a bad thing. Most people who succeed in the arts are insecure and are therefore fueled to work like madmen. Let's face it, it's the fear of failure that insists that we succeed. Okay, so how do you make this happen? First of all, get it out of your heads that you've got to be a genius, okay? Have talent for sure, but you don't need to be a genius. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger would admit he's no real actor, but look what he... I'm sorry. Is Arnie out there? Jesus. He's no real actor, but look what the hell he accomplished. Like him, those who succeed in the arts start off with a good idea and then turn it into something unique, selling themselves like there's no tomorrow. It ain't called show business for nothing. Second, be in the center of the action. For me and anyone who's serious about working in the movies, it means living in Los Angeles. If you're in the theater, go to New York, and for the architects out there, I guess you just have to go anywhere where they're building things. This reminds me of the very first film music seminar I attended shortly after I moved to Los Angeles. It featured the famous film composer Henry Mancini. He pointed out to us, you out there in the room, you should be very proud of yourselves, because for every one of you in that room, there are hundreds that will never make it out to LA for whatever reason, and therefore will probably never have a career in music, film music. When I first arrived in Hollywood some 30 years ago, I remember driving over the Santa Monica Mountains, and I assumed the only two types of music I'd hear on the radio was either the Beach Boys or film music. Can you believe it? I also foolishly thought that if I didn't have my name on the silver screen within a year, that I should pack up and go home. It wasn't until later that year that I was introduced what is called the 5-year plan. And this is how it goes. Your first year out of school should only be about survival. Yeah. Do not expect to make a living as an artist, for sure. You should think of this time as an opportunity to make those around you aware of your talent by giving yourself for free of charge, if that's what it takes, to as many people as possible. Careers are made by surrounding yourself with an ever-expanding group of people who believe in your talents. The smart person takes advantage of any opportunity that comes their way, even if they don't get paid. Because you never know where that connection might take you in the future. In my situation, with all the short films I scored when I was at UCLA, not a single one of those directors went on to direct features, but they did go on to work in movies in other capacities and were constantly recommending me for gigs. Thank you, my friends. As a matter of fact, I can trace the first 15 movies of my career to some connection I made as a student. Don't make the mistake of not being willing to take a job that has nothing to do with your field, or a job in your field that isn't the specific type of work you want to do. Don't worry, this won't ruin your image, because as my ex-agent said, when you're first starting out, you have no image to ruin yet, The only reason to say no to a job is if you have a better offer. Okay, I've seen a lot of really talented people give up way too soon because they have an unrealistic timetable for their success. with the 5-year plan, you just survive your first year and then don't even consider asking yourself if you may have made a mistake pursuing your dream for at least 5 years. I beg all the young composers I meet and teach at USC to call me if they're about to quit so that I can tackle them on their way to the airport. You never know at what age you're going to make your mark. Even in my field, some of the most recent Academy Award-winning composers didn't even start working in the business until they were in their 40s. Longevity really is what a career is all about. It's not winning an Oscar, an Emmy, a Tony, or a Grammy. It's all about being in demand for as long as you want to work. When you leave this university, you will notice that some of your peers will seem to do much better than you right out of the gate. If you're anything like me, you're going to envy the hell out of them. But don't let that envy freeze you up, because you never know where that very same person is going to be later on down the line. Shooting stars fizzle out quickly. Everyone has good times and bad times. As a matter of fact, it is said that successful careers are nothing more than a series of comebacks. Now, before I leave today, I'm going to tell you this quick story about my early years, only because I'm hoping that by hearing about some of my obstacles, it will give you some reassurance that setbacks do not always mean ultimate failure. Although bad experiences are disheartening at the time, they can actually turn out to be blessings in disguise. When I was a kid, all I wanted to be was a superstar drummer. And I went to Berklee College of Music one summer to study with a hero of mine. I thought I was going to knock his socks off. However, at the end of the day, he didn't think I had the right stuff. I was devastated. I remember walking out on Boylston Street in tears, just bawling tears. But what it did was it caused me to turn my attention to the idea of becoming a composer instead, which had been stewing in the back of my mind. I became obsessed with film music shortly thereafter and realized I needed to move out to LA. I applied to grad school at UCLA and got turned down, as well as from every other school save one. I went to that school for a year and locked myself away and really studied composing seriously for the first time. I reapplied to UCLA the following year and was accepted. My hero, David Raxon, who was the composer to the scores of Laura, Forever Amber, and The Bad and the Beautiful, among many others, Dean Raymond knows who I'm talking about, was the only person with whom I studied film music, because in the 80s, nobody else offered any classes on the subject. By the time I started writing film music cues for his class in the spring semester, I'd already been told by the head of the composition department that I had absolutely no talent. Then, after recording my first assignment for his class, David critiqued it and said, "Chris, my boy, I'm sorry to say, but this is not a very good cue." Now, I vividly remember, again, breaking out into tears. I sat alone at the back of the class after everyone had left, and he came up to me and he patted me on the back and he said, "Chris, my boy, don't worry. It's only a class, and just work harder on the next one." Well, sure enough, I did, and his critique that time was, "Chris, my boy, that cue's okay." Finally, on the third cue, he came up to me and he said, "Chris, my boy, now that's a great cue." Oh, it took my heart away. And that was all I needed to hear to validate that I had not made a mistake moving out to LA. Had I not had the experience of him supporting me, I might have given up. At the end of the day, I often ask myself, why me? Why me? Why did I succeed? Why not the other composers in that class who actually were better writers than me at the onset? I think it's because their music really didn't get any better. They weren't as neurotic as I was about wanting to improve. Okay, so you have to have an insane love for what you're doing, an obsessive work ethic. Open any book on how to have a successful career, of which there seems to be one coming out about every week, a new one coming out every week, and there's one thing they all have in common, and that is you need to have an impeccably strong work ethic. Add to that commitment and staying focused on the path, then you really, really cannot fail. I promise you. I always tell my students that while I wouldn't expect them to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge in the name of film music, I would expect them to look over the edge and at least contemplate it. In closing, let me add that if you don't remember anything else that I've said here this morning, remember this. Please don't panic these first few months out of school and give up. Some of you may be getting a diploma in a field that you're not being encouraged to pursue. Don't pay too much attention to that right now. I bet there will come a day when all will be proud that you went ahead and pursued your crazy dream. I would love to see each and every one of you on TV receiving either an Oscar, an Emmy, a Tony, or a Grammy in your hand, but nothing would make me happier than to know that you had a long and prosperous career. So, my friends, congratulations.
Thank you, Chris.